have something that they'd like to share with us? We have a couple more minutes. You guys have something over here? Well, come on. Come on. It's okay. Talk about a problem. It doesn't always have to be a solution. This is right. You can even sit there and face it. You can just talk.
That's okay. In our discussion, looking at gender, in our discussion, we decided that it was a lot of, part of our demographic is that it was the male issue, not the females. Females are not afraid to go into non-traditional roles, welding, auto body, auto mechanics, but it's a lot of the males that don't want to go into those non-traditional roles because of the stigma that's associated with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think gender-neutral language is one way to help reduce that stigma. Does anybody have something else that they want to throw out as another way to reduce the stigma of because you're right, we have a very traditional, I think both the Hispanic, the Native American, and then we've got the Texas, right? All three of those subgroups, they're pretty macho, right? Just to put a fine point on it. So how do we help that in our state?
I know that sounds kind of silly, but to say that if we were to make like a propaganda type of thing in which we identify the positive aspects for the opposite gender, and literally, put up signs around saying, if you're a good cook and you dance well, you'll be more attractive to the other sex, or something like that. Just showing, if you're more able to take care of yourself if you can swing a hammer. And so make positive propaganda about it.
I like it. I like positive associations. My husband cooks and he makes tortillas, and all of my girls at work are very jealous that I have a husband that makes tortillas. So, so with that, I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for the last speaker of the day, which is going to be about all of the legal issues. I'm sure you can't wait for that. So I'm going to zap through a bunch of slides here, just to get to this last one. This is the slide that I started the conversation with, and just to kind of wrap up this conversation of getting program and performance in alignment, to think again about how these three pieces go together and how we have to have academic rigor, we have to have industry involvement and get that alignment going, and we have to keep our students engaged. That's what drives academic success. It's what drives them to stay in school and graduate, and ultimately it's what drives people to be successful in their jobs, is being engaged. And so we can't lose sight of that as we try to push academics, as we try to push math attainment. We have to always keep sight of the student engagement as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over, and I just want to say that we aren't going to take a break right now. If you need one, because we just had lunch, go ahead and quietly go out and come back in. But we will have a break in about an hour so that you have a time to digest all of the heavy food that's about to come. And Jinky's going to do the formal introduction.
See, she called me Jinky. It comes very natural. Thank you, everybody, and I know that it's winding down, but we have some very important information still yet to come. The information that Miss Bonnie Littlegram, and she's an attorney at law, she represents Bruce Steen and Manasevich, which is a law firm that was established in 1980 and is recognized. Okay. She's done this before. I have done this before. Hello, good afternoon. Is that loud? Okay. Good afternoon. Okay. Thank you for that introduction, and just to sort of
summarize again who I am and where I'm from. I work with Bruce and Manasevit. It's a DC-based law firm. We deal exclusively with federal education programs. So Perkins, including ESEA or IDEA. We also assist with education programs that come out from DOL. So I heard someone mention the tax grant. So we represent, at one point or another, we've represented all 50 states. We work with a lot of different individual school districts, colleges, charter schools, nonprofits, et cetera. And we primarily provide a lot of advice and compliance issues we deal with related to our fun topic of the day, which I love being left to the end of a 2-day conference to talk to you about the regulations in the Education Department General Administrative Regulations. How many of you have heard of EDGAR? Oh my goodness, I am very pleased to see so many hands go up. So EDGAR is the Education Department General Administrative Regulations. This is a group of regulations that apply to not only your Perkins funds, but any federal grant money that comes from the U.S. Department of Ed. Obviously, we'll be talking about these rules and requirements in light of Perkins dollars, but just so you know that your colleagues who may work on, programs under IDEA or No Child Left Behind, they're subject to these same rules, right? In addition to EDGAR, there is the Perkins statute and Perkins regulations and Perkins guidance, right? That's the program statute. So not only do you have to comply with the program side and the program requirements, you have to comply with these administrative regulations and administrative requirements. But there's more, right? Of course. There's so many layers because in addition, Perkins is a state-administered program. So you have to also make sure that you comply with any state-specific requirements or state rules. You have to make sure that your Perkins dollars comply with your local rules, your local policies, your local requirements. There are just so many layers, right? Layers and layers and layers of rules. So that when the state comes in and they say, I'm sorry, you can't spend your Perkins dollars on this, I understand the frustration. It's like, well, wait, where does it say that? And you're being pointed in all so many different directions. A lot of the rules on finances, a lot of the rules on allowable costs, and just general administration of this grant and all grants come in EDGAR, right? And that's what we'll be talking about predominantly this afternoon. I have maybe good news, maybe bad news, I don't know, let's read the room, but EDGAR has been completely rewritten as of December 19th, 2014. So very recent, hot off the press, we have essentially a new EDGAR. What this presentation does is it highlights the changes. These changes came about from a comprehensive effort put out by the Office of Management and Budget. The Office of Management and Budget is tied to the White House, right? It's an agency that essentially sets out what they call circulars, OMB circulars, and OMB circulars work kind of like super regulations. The OMB circular goes across all different federal agencies. So OMB circular, many of you may have heard of the cost principles or in A87, OMB circular A87, or the cost principles in A21 for my post-secondary folks, right? Those cost principles applied not only to dollars that came from the U.S. Department of Ed, but dollars that came from DOL or agriculture or HHS, right? Because it's a circular, it applies across all the different federal agencies. EDGAR is developed by the U.S. Department of Education. These apply to your education grants. Not just Perkins, but other grants that come from education, but the circulars, they apply across all those different funds, or all those different agencies. Well, OMB Circular decided that, you know what, we have different sets of rules that apply depending on the type of grant recipient you are. Right, so how many, let's see our post-secondary folks in the room. Right, so we have about 50% post-secondary, and let's see our secondary, then I'm assuming everybody else. No, everyone's either in one of those two categories, I would assume. If you were a post-secondary institution, you had to comply with OMB Circular A110, which was codified previously